Imagine never having to sell your Bitcoin again and still being able to generate monthly liquidity from it. That's exactly what this Excel calculator shows you, including reinvestments, collateralized loans, and the DCA function. In the future, you'll use your Bitcoin as collateral with a lender to receive liquidity without having to sell your coins. Right now, the number of banks and lenders is still limited. But in the next 2 to 4 years, the number of providers offering this service is expected to increase significantly. One example is Firefish, which already offers Bitcoin-backed loans, though currently only with repayment terms of up to 24 months. If that interests you, you'll find a link in the description. Our calculator, however, is based on the typical 4-year cycles that have historically defined the Bitcoin market. That's why the loan cycles in this tool start in 2029, the next potential all-time high, when the number of providers is likely to grow. Many well-known voices like Michael Saylor, Mark Moss, or German-speaking experts like Block Trainer or Florian Bruceboy are discussing exactly this topic. This calculator takes it to the next level. Your personal roadmap to financial freedom with Bitcoin as the foundation. This video does not constitute financial advice and is for informational and entertainment purposes only. When you first open the calculator, it may seem a bit technical, but don't worry. I'll guide you through it step by step, and you'll quickly see how logical and intuitive it actually is. The calculator is based on Bitcoin's typical 4-year cycles, as price movements have historically followed this pattern. The idea is that you take out a 4-year loan, pay only the interest during this period, and repay the principal at the end of the cycle. In the top left, you start by entering your expected annual return for the first cycle 2025 to 2029. For example, you might enter an annual growth rate of 30% or choose another value based on your outlook. You can also use the predefined scenarios at the bottom, more on that later. Right next to it, you can enter your monthly savings amount. For example, if you're contributing $100 monthly via a savings plan, you input that here. In column C, you enter your starting capital, how much you've already invested in Bitcoin. The calculator then automatically determines your current Bitcoin holdings in column D. For that, it simply calculates your current capital by dividing it by the current Bitcoin price shown at the top right in column N. This price should normally update automatically, but if that's not the case for you, you can manually enter the current rate. In column E, a key section follows. You decide what percentage of your Bitcoin you want to keep long-term. That means in cold storage without collateralizing it. Very much in the style of not your keys, not your coins. If you enter 50%, the calculator will automatically show how much Bitcoin you're depositing with the lender as collateral. Next, you enter how much of this collateral you want to borrow against, for example, 30%. The calculator then determines the loan amount you would receive from the lender. Right below, you'll see the calculated figure. It also automatically calculates at what percentage drop in Bitcoin price a margin call or forced liquidation would occur, including an estimate of the price level where this might happen. Currently, most platforms allow borrowing up to 50% of your collateral, mainly due to liquidation risks. Firefish currently follows this exact limit. Now it gets even more interesting in the next step. You decide whether to reinvest a portion of the liquidity back into Bitcoin. That means, in effect, using a small leverage, similar to what Michael Saylor does with strategy. If you reinvest, say, 70%, your Bitcoin holdings in the next cycle will increase, as you can see here. If you leave it at 0%, you'll have more liquidity available, but your Bitcoin position will grow more slowly. Next, you enter the interest rate your lender charges. Platforms like Firefish currently range between 5% and 14%, but this value is adjustable. The calculator automatically deducts interest payments from your liquidity and transparently shows how much net income is available to you annually and monthly. At the end of each cycle, the calculator shows a potential Bitcoin price based on your return assumptions, helpful for evaluating your strategy. And of course, you can always see your total capital, including reinvestments, loans, and savings contributions. This lets you plan all the way through to 2045, testing different scenarios, all without ever needing to sell your Bitcoin. Important note: all calculations are done automatically. For example, your total capital in 2033, shown in yellow, is based on your starting capital, the monthly deposits entered in B6, and the portion of liquidity reinvested from I6. At the same time, the loan from the previous cycle CG7 is deducted, since it must be repaid after 4 years. If you enter 0% in G6, you'll immediately see that the ending capital is about $43,000 higher. If you want to experiment, you can use the predefined scenarios via the tabs at the bottom, for example. Bull case optimistic growth, bear case cautious planning, or the Sailor Moon case, where Bitcoin reaches around $21 million in the coming decades. You'll also find the same scenarios with pre-filled values, depending on the focus. The liquidity-focused versions aim to maximize monthly and yearly liquidity. The leverage-focused versions use less liquidity and focus on growing Bitcoin holdings via strategic borrowing. Key takeaway: all calculations run fully automatically. Just enter your values. The rest happens in the background. At the end, you'll see your total wealth in 2045, including liquidity, reinvestments, dollar cost averaging, and more. If it all seems a bit complex at first glance, there's a beginner version of the calculator. In that version, you only enter your monthly savings, your starting capital, the loan-to-value ratio applied to 100% of your Bitcoin, the lender's interest rate, and you immediately get an overview of your liquidity and total wealth across each cycle through 2045. Below this video, you'll find 2 links. One to the full version. Use the code EARLYADOPTER20 to get 20% off the regular price, and another to download the free version. The free version is a simplified version of the beginner version. It offers the same input fields, but only displays the cycles from 2029 to 2033 and from 2045. Perfect for getting a feel for the calculator and concept. And if you want to dive deeper, I highly recommend the full version. In summary, this calculator lets you create your personal Bitcoin financial plan, calculate when you can live off your Bitcoin, simulate different scenarios from hodling to leverage setups, and most importantly, do it all without selling your Bitcoin. The future belongs to those who are prepared with a clear plan and a cool head. And now, wishing you lots of success and enjoyment with a calculator. Please note, this video does not constitute financial advice and is for informational and entertainment purposes only.